Have you ever wondered what your dog really sees when it looks at you? A human? Or just a strange creature living in the same home? It sounds a little funny, but the truth is, the way your dog sees you is nothing like what you've believed all this time. And here's the surprising part. That difference doesn't push you further away from them. In fact, it might be the very reason why your bond with your dog feels so deep. If you've ever felt like your dog understands you in a strange, unexplainable way, stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear might change the way you see your dog forever. Most of us assume that our dogs see the world the same way we do. A clear line between humans and animals, between their kind and others. But for dogs, it's completely different. They don't really care what species you belong to. What they care about is something much simpler. Are you safe? Are you familiar? And most importantly, are you family?
The truth is, your dog knows perfectly well that you are not a dog. Not in a cute, confused way like many people assume, but in a very clear, conscious way. From your scent, to the way you move, to your face and your voice, everything tells them one thing. You are something completely different. Inside a dog's brain, there are even specialized areas designed specifically to process human faces, something that doesn't even exist in our wild ancestors. Which means, after thousands of years living alongside humans, their brains have changed. Not to become human, but to understand humans. And that's what makes this so powerful. Because even knowing you are not their species, they still choose you. Not out of confusion, but because in the way they see the world, you belong to their pack.
And once you start to understand that, you begin to realize something even stranger. Your dog doesn't just know who you are. It's observing you in a way you almost never notice. Not just a quick glance, but a very precise kind of attention. Every look, every subtle change in your face, every tiny reaction, even the ones you don't catch yourself. While you think you're just going through a normal day, to your dog, you are constantly revealing information about your emotions, your state of mind, and even things you haven't realized about yourself yet. And from here, things start to get a lot more interesting. Have you ever thought that your dog recognizes you only because of your scent? The truth is, your face is something it remembers in remarkable detail. Not just recognition, but a deep, precise memory. The shape of your features, your eyes, the way you smile, and even the smallest changes you barely notice. And here's the fascinating part. When your dog looks at you, it's not just seeing, it's reading. Reading your emotions. A slight frown, a subtle shift in your gaze, or a smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes. It notices all of it, faster than you can even process what you're feeling. Some studies suggest dogs tend to look at a specific side of the human face first, not by accident, but because they are searching for emotional cues in a way that is instinctive, precise, and almost impossible to fool. You might be able to hide your emotions from other people, but to your dog, that's almost impossible. And if your face is what they read, then your voice is what they feel. You could be standing in a crowded room, surrounded by noise, but the moment you speak, your dog can recognize you almost instantly. Not just out of familiarity, but because its brain has memorized your voice in a very specific way. Every rhythm, every tone, every subtle shift when you're happy, tired, or stressed. To you, it's just a normal sentence. But to your dog, it's emotion. A fast, excited tone might mean a walk is coming. A slow, low voice can feel calm and safe. And here's what's fascinating. Your dog isn't just hearing what you say. It's trying to understand what you feel while saying it. Familiar words slowly become signals. Its name, a place, a routine repeated every day. Piece by piece, it puts everything together, not just to understand your language, but to understand you. And if you think everything stops at what can be seen or heard, then you're missing the most important part. Because for a dog, the world isn't built only from sight or sound, but from things that are completely invisible. You may not notice it, but every time you walk into a room, you bring more than just your presence. You carry a trace that only your dog can read. Something that can't be seen, can't be touched, yet holds a surprising amount of information about you. Where you've been, what you've just experienced, and even what's going on inside you. And from here, the way your dog perceives you is about to change completely. That trace is your scent, but not in the way humans experience it. To a dog, your scent is like a map, an incredibly detailed map made up of hundreds of different signals. What you ate, where you've been, who you've met, it's all there. And what's truly fascinating is that scent doesn't just tell the past. It also reveals what's happening inside your body. A slight stress response, a subtle internal change, or even early signs of illness. Things you haven't even noticed yet. But to your dog, it's all clear. It's not just smelling you, it's reading you on a much deeper level. And it doesn't stop at just recognizing you. Your dog actually remembers you. Not in a vague way, but in a very real, concrete way. Every moment you spend together, every time you call its name, every small routine repeated each day, all of it is stored. You might leave the house for a few hours or just a short while, but to your dog, that time doesn't simply disappear. It feels your absence. It notices the difference when you return. And sometimes, the way it greets you at the door isn't just excitement. It's because it has truly missed you the entire time you were gone. You don't just exist when you were there. You exist inside its memory. And perhaps the most surprising part is the reason why your dog is so deeply attached to you. Some people believe it's all about food. You feed them, you take care of them, so they stay. But if it were that simple, it wouldn't feel this deep. In many studies, when dogs were given a choice between food and their owner, a large number of them chose you. Not because it was the logical choice, but because it was what they truly wanted. To a dog, your presence isn't just a resource. It's a connection, a kind of emotion that even without food still draws them back to you. And there's something else that you may have experienced but never really thought about. It's the way your dog seems to know when you're about to come home. No message, no clear signal. Yet it goes to the door, waits at a strangely familiar time, as if it can sense something you can't. Part of that comes from memory and hearing. It can recognize the sound of your car from far away. But there's something even more fascinating. Over time, your scent in the environment slowly changes. And your dog seems to have learned how to measure that. When your scent fades to a certain point, it knows you're about to return. No clock, no signal, just its own perception.
And when you put all of this together, a very different picture begins to form. To you, you're just a normal human being. But in your dog's world, you are not just a figure. You are a combination of many things. A face it remembers in detail. A voice it feels emotionally. A scent that carries your entire story. And all of that comes together to form you in its world. Not just an owner, but something special. A center. Something it is always drawn to. And maybe, after understanding this, you'll start to see your dog in a different way. Not just as a pet, but as a being that has always seen you more deeply than you ever imagined.
When you look back at all of this, you begin to realize something. Your dog has never seen you in a simple way. Not just as the one who feeds it, not just as someone who shares the same space, but as a being it understands in its own unique way. Through your expressions, through your voice, through the invisible things you never noticed. And maybe the bond between you and your dog was never random, but a connection built slowly, day by day. And maybe after this video, you'll start to see your dog in a completely different way. Not just as a pet, but as a being that is always watching you, feeling you, and understanding you in its own way. If you've ever noticed a moment when your dog seemed to know more than it should, try to remember it. When did it happen? And at that moment, what were you feeling? Share it in the comments. Because sometimes your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear.